You level with us now. Our tax is going to be going up.
The budget will be set out by the Chancellor
The
on
principle
the 30th.
of it.
But what I was talking about when I was speaking at Downing
Love
Street,
it.
it'll be set out in the manifesto.
Well, you set it out in the manifesto. Tax is going
it'll
to
be set out in the budget on Wednesday.
Is that the painful choice that taxes will be going up? I'm not asking you to set out what they are, but just the principle of it.
Well,
Are they a working person?
Well, they wouldn't come within my definition.
So their taxes could go up?
Yeah, I mean, you can probably give me any number of examples. No, you're tagging a second question to the first, which is your offer.
And there will be loads of working people out there that are going to be hit by tax rises and might think that you do one thing or say one thing and do another.
Well, I made clear promises in the election campaign, and I intend to keep those promises.
Keir Starmer just turned an interview into a marathon of cliches. His responses felt less like answers and more like a playlist of well-worn phrases. At times, it seemed like he was reading directly from a script, with barely a moment of genuine reaction. If you're up for a challenge, try tallying every time he sidesteps a real question. You'll have yourself a party game by the end.
There are 55 Commonwealth countries here represented. It's a meeting that takes place every other year, and there's a lot of conversation going on. Reparations is one of the conversations, of course, but there are conversations about resilience and climate, because for many countries, particularly some of the island countries, that's a very real threat.
They want to put it into the communique. Are you prepared to do that?
We're also talking about trade. The combined GDP of the countries represented here is the best part of $20 trillion. On the question of reparations, obviously it's very important for me to say and to recognise that the slave trade and practice was abhorrent, and that is history. We can't change our history, and we should start from that place. But the question now at this conference is, do we want to focus more on the challenges now, which to my mind are resilience and the climate challenge, and the opportunity of trade, or look backwards? And I say we should look forward.
Okay.
But look, there's a conversation going on here, quite right too.
Your career as a lawyer and your pitch as a politician has always been about justice and doing the right thing. Don't you think that approach, if the other Commonwealth leaders want to put it in the communique, put it on the table, is a bit arrogant and dismissive to say, I don't want to talk about it?
Well, first thing I'd say is there are 55 countries represented here. There is no one view amongst all 55. There are many different and varied views, and you'd expect that. There are 55 delegations. I've had quite a number of discussions since I've been here. Actually more about trade and opportunities, more about resilience and trade. Because for many countries...
I've got to move on. Are you relaxed if it's in the communique, though, or do you not want it in the communique? Because it looks like it's going in the communique, some sort of discussion about it.
Well, let's see. The communique is being discussed at the moment. We'll see what it contains in due course. But I'm just clear in my mind that, yes, we must acknowledge history and absolutely recognise the abhorrence of the slave trade. And that's very important. But at the same time, we have to answer the question, which is being put to me, which is, how can you help us with resilience now? Because we've got, a flood problem that's measured in years, not decades, and we need to deal with it.
Keir Starmer just turned a serious discussion into his game of dodgeball, expertly weaving and ducking around the tough questions. He kicks things off with a casual nod to history, as if that alone grants him a free pass, before quickly pivoting to an arsenal of buzzwords about resilience and climate. It's as if he believes that sprinkling in these trendy terms will somehow distract us from the pressing issues at hand. His approach feels like a well-rehearsed dance routine, one where he charms us with slick corporate jargon while tiptoeing around accountability like a cat on a hot tin roof. If you ever wondered what a politician looks like when he's scared of his own shadow, just watch Starmer squirm in his seat as he fumbles to dodge real answers. It's almost comical how he could take a conversation about world hunger and transform it into an abstract lecture on philosophical ideals. Bravo, Keir.
I haven't got long. In August, in the Downing Street Garden, you talked about painful choices coming in the budget. It was a hint of tax rises on the way. You didn't say it out loud. Will you level with us now? Our tax is going to be going up.
The budget will be set out by the Chancellor on the 30th.
The principle of it.
But what I was talking about when I was speaking at Downing Street, and what I've said ever since, is this. We've inherited a very bad situation here. The economy is broken, and we've discovered there's a £22 billion black hole. My approach, the Chancellor's approach, is to acknowledge that problem, run towards it and fix it.
Yes, a
so that
tax
we
is
can
going
fix
up.
the foundations.
Our tax
and
is
on
going
that,
up beyond what you said
we
in the
will then
manifesto.
rebuild the country.
Our tax is going up.
That will be set out in the manifesto.
The principle of it.
It'll be set out in the manifesto.
Well, you set it out in the manifesto. A tax is going
I'm sorry,
to
it'll be set out in the budget on Wednesday.
Is that the painful choice that taxes will be going up? I'm not asking you to set out what they are, but just the principle of it.
Well, the principle we put in place is that there's a £22 billion black hole and we've got to
So taxes
fix
are
that.
going up?
Well, we're also clear that we're not returning to austerity.
People will be watching this, and then when you put taxes up, and you won't say in principle, look, they're going to have to go up, and you'll get more detail.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But you know, and I know that no government before a budget sets out what's going to be in the budget.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking you about the principle. You said to me in Grimsby, all our plans are fully funded, fully costed, fully funded. We do not raise taxes on working people. No rises for income tax, national insurance, for VAT. That's still the case. But are other taxes going up?
I said that to you in Grimsby. I think I said it to you everywhere we met in the entire campaign.
Are other taxes
and
going
I'll
up?
absolutely repeat that. For working people, we made an absolute commitment that their income tax wouldn't go up, their national insurance wouldn't go up, their VAT wouldn't go up. I said that in the campaign. We're going to keep to those promises.
But should we expect taxes more broadly to go up?
We're going to have to make difficult decisions in this budget. I'm not going to preempt the budget.
That's a yes.
You know that.
Okay.
Here, Starmer has everyone laser focused on the £22 billion black hole, yet he expertly dodges the elephant in the room. Are taxes actually going up? Instead of delivering clarity, he serves up a dizzying buffet of buzzwords and vague promises, proclaiming his unwavering commitment to not raising taxes for working people. However, his attempts to reassure only highlight his uncanny ability to tiptoe around the painful truths lurking within his budget. It's as if he thinks that by evading a straightforward answer he can keep the public in suspense, pulling off some sort of political sleight of hand. But let's be real. This isn't magic. It's a classic case of misdirection. Behind the curtain, the rabbit is about to hop right out of the hat, and his supporters may not want to see what it reveals. His repeated assurances, while polished and rehearsed, ring increasingly hollow as they mask the inevitable reality of impending tax hikes.
Look, but what we are going to do, it's really important that we fix the foundations. We've got to clear up this mess once and for all, and then on that we build a better Britain. And that we will set out, which is measured in people feeling better off, the NHS not just back on its feet, but actually fit for the future, and public services working in the way that people are entitled to see from their public services.
Prime Minister, are you a working person?
Well, I would define a working person as somebody who goes out and earns their living, usually paid in a sort of monthly check. But I think that's obviously very broad. So let me be clear. What I mean, or if you like, who I have in my mind's eye when I make decisions as Prime Minister, are the sorts of working people who go out, work hard, and maybe save a bit of money, but don't have the wherewithal to write a cheque to get out of difficulties if they and their family get into difficulties.
That definition.
Now that's who I have in my mind. People who've got that anxiety, if you like, in the bottom of their stomach that says, we're doing all right, but should something happen to me and my family, I haven't actually got the wherewithal to get out of that problem. So that's who I have mostly in mind.
The definition is very broad. Who isn't a working person? Who is a person for whom you think taxes should go up?
Well, it is broad, I accept that. But
broad?
No, but when I tell you who's in my mind's eye, which is, and I think everybody watching this will know whether they're in this category, because you carry in that situation a sort of knot in the bottom of the stomach, which is, if push comes to shove and something happens to me and my family, I can't just get a checkbook out, even though I've maybe got a bit of saving. But they're the people that in a way, I came into politics to try and make sure they had secure jobs, didn't have the anxiety of public services not working, and felt genuinely better off with better opportunities. That's what I have in my mind's eye.
Fixing the foundations sounds more like political lip service than a concrete plan, offering little reassurance amidst a backdrop of uncertainty. Starmer paints an alluring picture of a utopian Britain where the NHS is thriving and public services shine brightly. But when it comes to defining a working person, he seems to be grasping at straws. His broad, fuzzy definition could encompass anyone from your friendly neighborhood barista to the CEO of a multinational corporation, leaving us questioning whether he even understands the diverse constituency he aims to represent. It's almost as if he believes that by drumming up concern for those with anxiety in the bottom of their stomach, he can distract us from the growing reality that he's gearing up to raise taxes. In doing so, he risks alienating the very individuals he claims to champion, as his rhetoric becomes a smokescreen obscuring the truth of his policies. If he continues down this path, his vision of better opportunities might just be better at avoiding the hard truths, while leaving everyday citizens to navigate the storm of uncertainty on their own.
Okay, so for someone who works but gets their income from assets as well, such as shares of property, are they a working person?
Well, they wouldn't come within my definition.
So their taxes could go up?
Yeah, I mean, you can probably give me any number of examples. No, you're tagging a second question to the first, which is you're asking me for a definition of who's a working person, and then you're making assumptions about what the tax might be in relation to.
The point is, we're running out of time, but I could go through fuel duty. If you're driving a van,
you could.
You're a working person and you might put fuel duty up.
You could go through that exercise, or you could, ensure that people hear from me who I have in my mind's eye. People watching this will know whether they're in that group or not. Those people who work hard, are anxious about whether they can make ends meet, and know that should something happen to them and their family, they can't write a checkbook to get out of the problem. I'm really concerned about them, and the decisions I make are, because politics for me is about who do you have in your mind's eye when you make your decisions. I'm not ideological. I have those people in my mind's eye. The reason it matters, Prime Minister, and the reason I'm pressing you on whether it's people with shares, if it's fuel duty that might go up and hit people that drive vans or cars to work, or freezing council tax, bans and council tax going up potentially, the reason it matters, the reason I'm pressing you, is because you say trust in politics is broken, and you promised 4 months ago for working people taxes not going up. And there will be loads of working people out there that are going to be hit by tax rises and might think that you do one thing or say one thing and do another. Well, I made clear promises in the election campaign, and I intend to keep those promises. So let me be very clear about that. In relation to the other measures that may or may not be in the budget, as you know, they will be set out in full when the budget is unveiled by the Chancellor, and no government ever says in advance, for very obvious reasons, what's in the budget. It's very close now, so we will know the full details of it. What I can say is the principles that we're operating to are, we've got a problem here caused by the last government, we're going to fix it, and we're going to rebuild our country, and we've already started down that track. We got £63 billion worth of investment in just about 10 days ago. That is investment that will be measured in jobs across the country.
Keir Starmer's attempt to define a working person is a classic case of political double talk, leaving us scratching our heads more than ever. According to him, if your income comes from assets like shares or property, you're out of luck. No sympathy here. It's almost like he's playing a game of who qualifies for the tax hike, and he's the only one holding the rules. As he tries to cozy up to the anxious workers who can't afford to write a check to escape their financial woes, he conveniently ignores the fact that many of them will be the ones left holding the bill if taxes go up. His insistence on not preempting the budget sounds less like caution and more like an evasive maneuver, as if he thinks that by deflecting, he can avoid the inevitable backlash when he breaks his promises. With Starmer, it feels like we're witnessing a masterclass in how to promise everything and deliver nothing. Just make sure to read the fine print.
Mr. I've got one final question, if you'll allow me. The Trump team has filed a complaint to the authorities in the US accusing the Labour Party of election interference. You are clear the Labour Party hasn't broken any of the rules. Are you annoyed that the possible future president and his staff are igniting a spat with you without basis?
Look, I think we should put this in perspective. I've met President Trump just a few weeks ago in New York. We had dinner together for 2 hours or so. He made a considerable effort to get to that dinner, for which I was very grateful. We both wanted to make sure that we got to know each other, created a good relationship. We both understand that the special relationship between the UK and the US was forged in difficult circumstances historically, but matters as much today. And of course I will work with whoever the president is that's elected by the American people in just a few days' time.
So
the fact that a few Labour volunteers went in this election, as they've done in every election, as party activists have done from all different political parties in pretty well every election that's gone on year after year after year, that needs to be put in its proper perspective.
So you're not going to even bother to raise it with him or his team? you're relaxed about it?
No, I've got a good relationship with President Trump, and I think the importance of the relationship between our two countries is very, very significant, and I will work with whoever's elected in by the American people.
Okay, Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keir Starmer's awkward dance around Trump's election interference complaint is like watching a tightrope walker in a windstorm, unsteady and fraught with tension. While he touts their good relationship, it's hard not to cringe at the image of him cozying up to a figure who sends shivers down many Brits' spines. His insistence on the importance of the relationship sounds more like a desperate plea for relevance than a solid strategy, making one wonder if he's trying to win over an audience that's already moved on. Instead of tackling pressing issues at home, he seems preoccupied with global PR stunts, diverting attention from the real concerns that impact everyday citizens. If only he channeled as much energy into addressing local problems as he does into these cringe-worthy international flirtations, perhaps he could forge a stronger connection with the very people he claims to represent. Instead, it appears he's dancing to someone else's tune while the pressing issues at home remain unaddressed and in the shadows. As we close the curtain on this chaotic interview, it's clear that Keir Starmer has transformed political evasion into an art form. With a dazzling display of buzzwords and a script that feels more like a brochure than a blueprint, he's sidestepped pressing questions like a master in a game of political hopscotch. His fuzzy definition of a working person could apply to anyone, even your cat if it had a job. As he cozies up to Trump, his strategy resembles a global PR stunt rather than a genuine attempt to tackle local issues. In a world where transparency is gold, Starmer seems content to play in the shadows, leaving us to wonder when he'll finally step into the spotlight and deliver the real answers we crave.